Hello, disciplers of little people. I'm sitting here at work and just thinking, praying, and reading, studying, and doing some things of that nature while I'm not, saving lives or whatnot. Just kidding.
A few moments later.
All right, I'm back. So where we're at. So I was kind of thinking about what's been on my mind. What's been on my mind since day one of being called to any kind of ministry in my life. Sean McDowell says in his book, So That Every Generation Should Know, he says that 65 to 75% of teenagers, that after they leave home after high school and go to college, that 65 to 75% will leave the church. Now, as a Christian, I think about, now how can I present Christ everywhere that I go, every place that I go to, if it's at work or if it's at church or if it's while I'm at Walmart or wherever it is. How am I presenting Christ today? And the big question is that more times I spend at home than I do anywhere else. And so I want to ask myself then as well, how am I presenting Christ in my home well today? Am I showing my kids that I love Him? Am I showing the love of Christ to my wife? Am I showing the love of Christ in patience and grace upon things that happen on at home? Let me tell you my biggest fear, not with only my children, but the kids at church, or any kids that I come in contact with or that we as a church influence. My biggest fear is for one of them to become a statistic. I would love to see every child, everyone that we influence as parents, our children. I want every one of us to have an impact on our kids and let them see the love of Jesus in our lives. So the memory verse that we're talking about this month in March is 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 16. And it's a fantastic verse by itself, but if you add the verses with it, full context, it packs a whole lot more punch when it comes to stewardship and disciplingship, especially to our children. Verse 13 starts in, "Therefore prepare your minds for action and be sober-minded." And so when I first read that, I think, so that I need to take heart that there's action that needs to be had, that I need to prepare myself for every situation beforehand. Now listen, I know that when our kids came out of the womb, they did not come out with instruction manuals or anything of that nature, that we're figuring it out as we go on. But it says to prepare ourselves for the action. And sometimes we can never prepare for the tragedies that come ahead, or we can never prepare for the hard questions that they may ask. It says to set your hope fully on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. It says, put your hope in Jesus. Self-help books and books written for parents, and those are all well and good. I understand that some of those are written in good intentions, but in reality, when the rubber meets the road, when the iron hits, it really comes down to, do we trust in Jesus? As a parent, we're scared that our kids will become a part of that statistic. But Jesus, He says, put your trust in me, hope in me. It says in verse 14, as obedient children, do not be conformed to the passions of your former ignorance, but as He who called you is holy, you also be holy in your conduct. He's saying as parents as well. I'm taking this in an applicable approach for parents, but we need to put away the childish things. Earlier in Paul, he talks about that, once we were children and we acted like children, but when we became a child of God, we grew up and became a man. I'm sorry, but I'm not playing video games like I once did. I'm not playing all these sports as I once did. I'm not doing the things as I once did as a kid, as an immature, idiotic kid. As a Christian, as a father, I have taken up the mental piece of maturity in the sense of spiritual discipleship to my kids. I set myself as an example. And it ends the thought in verse 16. And since it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. I think one of the things that we need to realize is that we as ministers, disciplers, leaders of the church, I don't even like that term, leaders of the church, for the fact that you guys, all the parents, are leaders of the home. I only get to see the kids an hour a week at most, depending on how long we decide to talk. How much more do they have respect for you as a parent than they do for me? How much more of a listening aspect are they listening to you than they are to me? How many more hours do you have with them versus I have with them? We get them for 1 hour in a week, and you get them for 168 hours. Think about that. You've got more time to show them the love of Jesus than I do. Because here's the thing, is if we want our kids to succeed and to love Jesus passionately after they leave home, after they find a spouse, after they have their own kids, and as they continue their fellowship with each other and with other people, and ultimately with Jesus, they have to see the example between us as parents. They look at us and see the example that we are giving. Where it says in verse 16, that you shall be holy, for I am holy. It's saying that Jesus is our ultimate example. And if Jesus is our ultimate example as a parent, then our kids will see the glory of God with our words, with our actions, our love towards our spouse, our love towards our children. In the midst of all that, we have 167 hours in a week to spend and to give them the love of Jesus. And we don't need to waste that time. But let me leave you with some encouragement. Hebrews chapter 11, it is known as the faith chapter. And it has all these legendary men and women of faith in Scripture. But it starts off with a little bit of hope for us. It says in verse 1, and faith is the evidence of things hoped for. Now, if we have faith in Jesus, He gives us hope in our children. If we follow Jesus now and we have faith in Jesus now as a father, as a mother, as any kind of caregiver or any kind of leader in the home, that's you. If you have faith in Jesus and you trust in Jesus and you follow Jesus to the very end, the hope for your kids, it is the evidence of your faith. It is the result of your faith. Faith is the evidence of things hoped for, and it's the evidence of the things unseen, the things that we just don't know anything about, the things that scare us half to death, that percentage, that statistic, it scares us. But if we have faith in Jesus, then we don't have to be fearful, that we can just hope in Him, that He will see it through, and that He will see our kids flourish in the knowledge and the faith and the growth of Jesus Christ. Now, I encourage you, I pray for you guys every day. I pray for your kids every day. And every single one of you guys, I have full faith and trust that you are leading your homes faithfully in Jesus. And I encourage you, anything, call me. I'll always be here.